Hi. The first transportation meeting will come to order. We're just trying to keep on our schedule. I'm Jennifer Boysko, the incoming chair. Ooh. And wanted to let you all know that there is no legislation docketed for today's meeting. We will go through introductions and, oh yeah, we'll do roll call. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on with my. Okay, we have a quorum with one dissension. Thank you, sir. I'd like
Madam
to.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. So we will, since this is a brand new committee, we will do introductions. I will start to my left with Senator DeSteff.
Senator Bill DeSteff, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and the Eastern Shore.
Good afternoon, everyone. Stella Pekarsky, Western Fairfax County, Senate District 36. That did not turn on. Now it did. Hope you all heard me. Stella Pekarsky, Western Fairfax, Senate District 36.
Danny Diggs, Senate District 24, Poquoson, York County, Williamsburg, part of James City, and half of the city of Newport News.
Senator John McGuire, Senate District 10, 10 counties, Hanover, Louisa, Goochland, Powhatan, Amelia, Fluvanna, Cumberland, Buckingham, Appomattox, and Prince Edward.
Danica Rome, State Senator for the 30th District, which is Western Prince William County, City of Manassas Park. Go I-66. Woo.
David Suderline, Roanoke City, Salem, most of Roanoke County, and most of Montgomery County. Over there.
Travis Hackworth, Senate District 5, that goes from Tazewell County all the way up to Blacksburg. And I think I am the senator that has the most of the notorious I-81. So, good to be here.
Good afternoon. Ghazala Hashmi, representing the 15th Senatorial District, which is parts of City of Richmond and parts of Chesterfield County.
Good afternoon. Glenn Sturdivant, represent the 12th District, which is Chesterfield County and the City of Colonial Heights.
Thank you so much. So you all who have been on the committee or watched the committee often might notice that we didn't do this with D's on one side and Republicans on the other. Also, seniority is mixed in. The reason we did that is because these issues are not typically partisan, but more regional based. And so with the number of new members who are here in the General Assembly this year, my intent was to group people somewhat regionally as well as experience-wise so that everybody can learn from one another. With that, I would like to say that we are really pleased to have the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Miller, with us today. He will provide some remarks and go over some of the agency leads who are going to be working with us through the year to help our new members get to know them. So, Secretary Miller, if you'd like to get started, we'd love to have you take the floor.
Thank you very much. Great being here. Appreciate it. Senator Boysko and committee, really proud to be here. This new building's beautiful. I will tell you, I came here in 1980 as an aide in the Senate for a guy named Herb Bateman, and so here I am 43 years from then till now, back in the same building, but it looks, or the same space, but it looks a little different than what it did 43 years ago. So I'm really pleased to be here. I appreciate you having me. Another thing I would say is the first time I appeared before this committee a couple years ago, we were talking about snow. Thank goodness we're not talking about that so much today, although we might get a little snow tonight in the western part of the state, Senator Hackworth and others, and so we're on that, and we got it well in hand. So just rest assured that VDOT et al. are for looking out after our best interests. So I appreciate the opportunity. Good afternoon. As the Senator said, my name is Shep Miller. I'm a native of Norfolk, Virginia, where I still live. I've been involved in transportation since 2010, mostly. I'm serving on the Transportation Board, so it's an honor to be able to serve y'all and the citizens and the governor in this role. So thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself and talk a little bit about the wondrous world of transportation. And I say wondrous seriously. Let me tell you a little bit about transportation in Virginia. At VDOT, our big crowning beast in transportation, we do everything from mowing the grass to building multi-billion-dollar road, bridge, and tunnel projects. At VPRA, and DJ Statler's here today, I want to recognize him, we send passenger trains across the Commonwealth from Roanoke, Richmond, Newport News, Springfield, Ettrick Station in Petersburg, and on, across almost 15 stations in the Commonwealth. At DRPT, Jennifer DeBrule's here, and I'll introduce her a little bit later. We support the state transit system, sending millions of folks on buses, commuter trains, subways, and light rail. At the Virginia Port Authority, we operate the state's port system, which is really 5 ports in one, perhaps with a new inland port in Southwest Virginia. And all of this drives a huge economic impact to Virginia. At the Department of Aviation, we operate the state's aircraft and support and guide our 9 commercial service airports along with our 52 general aviation airports. The Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, we ensure good business practices by auto dealers. And at DMV, and I'll introduce Commissioner Lackey in a bit, we license drivers, register vehicles, weigh trucks, and lead our highway safety efforts. And at the Virginia Commercial Spaceflight Authority, really wondrous, we launch rockets to resupply the International Space Station and deploy satellites for intelligence and communication purposes. So transportation is a pretty cool place to work, and we got a lot of stuff going on that's great in Virginia. Together, over 10,000 employees across these agencies and authorities work to ensure connectivity, accessibility, and opportunity for all Virginians across all modes of transportation. And it presents exciting, wondrous opportunities because it impacts everyone and everything. Transportation has a profound impact on the daily lives of every single Virginian, so we take that responsibility seriously. Pardon me. Let me tell you a little bit about how these agencies or programs and transportation projects are funded in Virginia. In Virginia, you, the General Assembly, through code, sets the legislative framework and funding that drives all of transportation. From that, we derive nearly all of our funding from dedicated sources, taxes that are earmarked for transportation, funds generated by our agencies, and federal transportation funding. This provides the critical stability and enables long-term planning. So to be clear, particularly for the new members, we're not really a general fund funded agency, and rarely do we get involved with the general fund. You've decided what our funding is going to be. That's what it is. Depends on the revenue of the state, and we go from there and go do good work. In total, the Transportation Secretariat oversees an annual budget of $11 billion. The largest source of funding in the Commonwealth is the Commonwealth Transportation Fund, or we refer to it as the CTF, which houses the revenues from a variety of dedicated state taxes, primarily those on motor fuels, retail sales, and vehicle sales, totaling about $4.8 billion for fiscal year 2024. The code allocates funding from the CTF to transportation projects in sort of a waterfall. So the money comes in the top and then it goes through the waterfall and goes to different buckets. After providing for a few special programs off the top of the CTF, like our Special Structures Fund and others, maintenance comes first in Virginia, with the Highway Maintenance and Operating Fund receiving 51% of that CTF revenue funding stream. We take care of what we already have. That comes first. The code allocates the remaining 49% to the Transportation Trust Fund for distribution to agencies to support their various projects and programs. The TTF allocates about 3/4 of its funding to the construction of new highway and transit projects that are included in the 6-year improvement program. The SIP is a holistic list of all the projects VDOT and DRPT will advance over the next 6 years, which totals almost $26 billion for that period from 24 to 29. The remaining TTF revenues are allocated to other transportation programs through our agencies that we manage. Together, these dedicated funding streams sustain the various components of transportation in Virginia. To give you an idea of sort of how that breaks out, in this biennium, in the current budget we're looking at, there's $15.6 billion that will go to VDOT, our largest agency, as I remarked before. $1.9 billion will go to the DRPT. $687 million will go to Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. $685 million to DMV. $86 million to the Department of Aviation. $572 million to the Virginia Port Authority. $46.9 million to Virginia's Commercial Space Flight Authority, and about $7 million to the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. So that's how we fund it out. Folks, this adds up to roughly $20 billion we're working with over this biennium. So now with the revenues in hand, we go to work. So let me tell you a little bit about how we do this work, particularly, let me start with the VDOT and road funding. We select projects to fund in advance in Virginia at the Commonwealth Transportation Board. I happen to be the chairman of the Commonwealth Transportation Board by virtue of my position as secretary, and we play the major role in selecting projects for including in the 6-year improvement plan. The code requires the board to use a data-driven project prioritization process to select priorities in projects and construction programs. This ensures the right transportation projects, the most needed and the most beneficial, move forward, eliminating back rooms and allowing for a transparent project selection process. And Senator, you said it well. Transportation does not tend to be partisan in Virginia. It tends to be a little political, and it's regionally political, right? And for good reason. So the system is designed to take some of that out of it and to sort of look at the Commonwealth at large and say, what brings the best value to the Commonwealth? And that's the system that we employ. This award-winning Smart Skill program, the system for the management and allocation of resources for transportation, that's what Smart Skill, that's the acronym, is the well-known prioritization tool for the board to advance projects. Smart Scale provides the board with an objective way to judge projects on their merits and provide the best return for the Commonwealth. It's the gold standard for project selection across the United States. And let me digress for just 1 second in that regard. As the governor's fond to say, and it's particularly true in transportation, we cut ribbons for the next governors, and, excuse me, we dig holes for the next governor and we cut ribbons from previous ones. And that's the way it works. Because our project, it's like a 7-year cycle almost. If you started today at 0, we're not going to do a lot for like 6 or 7 years on that project. That's just how long the whole thing takes. So thankfully, there's people that came before us that had great vision and doing great things, and we got to cut some of those ribbons and we'll continue to, and we're digging holes for the next group that are coming along. And that's the way that it works. So the Smart Scale system is great in the sense that it takes a lot of the politicization out of the process, just drives merit so that it drives economic opportunity and good transportation solutions for the Commonwealth. So the CTB cooperates and collaborates with others across the Commonwealth, including boards, regional commissions, authorities, metropolitan planning organizations, and localities throughout the process to identify and fund and deliver the needed projects across the Commonwealth. Let me tell you a little bit about the interstate improvement projects that are going on now. To give you a sense of what we're working on, I'd like to highlight some of these major projects. 2023 was a significant year for improvements of our best-in-class highway system, which was recently named the highest performing in the country by the Reason Foundation. And they didn't get that because we did it last year. It's been over a few years, and to my point on earlier folks that came before us. We continue to make improvement on progress on the $3.4 billion I-81 improvement program, with 34 of the 65 total capital projects in this program now complete and more underway. These ongoing improvements will increase the safety and reliability of our nation's infrastructure along that corridor. Within Virginia, I-81 connects 30 colleges and universities, 21 cities and towns, 13 counties, and parallels the Blue Ridge Parkway, making this program critical to supporting job growth and economic vitality while reducing congestion, enhancing safety and reliability, and improving quality of life for everyone in the region. We have a dedicated funding stream that will pump over $200 million a year into I-81 every year into the future. So while the current plan shows projects through 2032, the funding will continue in perpetuity, and more projects will be added. In addition, recognizing the importance of this corridor, the governor has included an additional $470 million request for I-81 in his budget. We turn to the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. Let me say one other thing about I-81. So we told you we've done about half the projects. They're all the little projects. They're all the operational kind of things. Some truck climbing lanes, some of those kinds of things. And so the major projects have not happened yet. Remember, I talked about 7 years. We started this 4 years ago with zero plan and zero money, and we're actually getting to construction pretty quickly. So there's frustration, right? When you go to 81, you don't see a lot happening. Well, a lot's getting ready to happen, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, and that leads me into the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, because it's getting worse before it gets better, and I drive that frequently. The tunnel, the $3.8 billion Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel expansion, continues to move along nicely. The tunnel boring machine, Mary, has finished half of her boring for the first tunnel, which is the critical path to completion. If the tunneling goes well, the project goes well. If the tunneling does not go well, the project does not go well. So we're all focused on Mary, and she's doing great so far. This is the largest construction project in the history of the Commonwealth and one of the largest infrastructure projects in the country right now. And it will double the capacity going over that bridge tunnel. Double. This project is a game changer for the Commonwealth and for Hampton Roads. Linked up with November, we broke ground on the long-awaited I-64 gap widening project, which will increase connectivity and safety between Central Virginia and Hampton Roads, two economically vital regions for the Commonwealth. This expansion will allow freight to move more freely between the Port of Virginia and the rest of the state and ensure families don't get stuck in hours of delays on the way to vacations or going back home. We're already seeing the impacts of this project with companies such as Buc-ee's and AutoZone expanding along the I-64 corridor. So think of what we're doing here, folks. We got a port that's on a roll, and I'll speak to that in a minute. We're doubling the capacity of the major choke point between Hampton Roads and Richmond and the rest of the Commonwealth, the Hampton Ridge Tunnel, and the second biggest choke point, the Gap. So basically, we're opening this corridor for commerce and people to move between Virginia Beach and the port and Southampton Roads to the rest of the Commonwealth. And we're already seeing the returns on that investment. It's going to be fantastic for all of us. We also have achieved significant milestones on part of the I-95 Corridor Improvement Program, including the opening of the 10-mile Fredericksburg extension on the I-95 express lanes and the expanded Rappahannock River crossing. We're expanding the I-495 express lanes on the next project up to the George Washington Parkway. And we're also looking at bidirectionality on the express lanes on I-95 and building express lines on, and also building express lanes on I-495 from Springfield to the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. So let me be clear, we haven't launched anything yet. We're still studying those two projects, and we're looking to see if they bring us some value and can we make them work. But you know, everybody that commutes to Northern Virginia, they always tell me it's always going the wrong way. And I call it the clicker project because we teased about, could you just get a clicker and get the traffic to reverse the way you want to go on those one-way express lanes? And the answer is we think we can maybe make it go both ways at the same time. And so we're going to look at that and pursue it if we can. But it's really exciting, an opportunity to make some real progress. Folks, we are saving Virginia's time and money and ensuring them safe and efficient access across the Commonwealth. And we remain committed to moving these and other major interstate improvement projects along, completing them on time and on budget. As most of you know, the governor's prioritized an administration-wide cross-secretariat approach in economic development. While economic development is not my main job as Secretary of Transportation, it's a close second. Every cabinet member is focused on growing economic opportunity in Virginia. From a transportation perspective, An important tool in our toolbox is the Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund, or TPOF as we refer to it, which is the Commonwealth's premier funding mechanism for transportation projects supporting economic growth opportunities. TPOF is important because it allows the governor the flexibility to respond to opportunities that arise by directing funds to critical transportation projects that bolster the economy. Last session, the General Assembly made some changes to make TPOF work better for Virginians, and we're already seeing the results. In December, the governor and the CTP allocated $20 million to the Virginia Spaceport to upgrade one of their launch pads at Wallops Island, which will allow Northrop Grumman to continue their Antares program to launch bigger and better rockets and compete for more customers. This program is providing good-paying jobs on the Eastern Shore and driving our burgeoning space industry. If you haven't been to Wallops Island to watch a launch and tour the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, one of only 4 orbital launch sites in the country, I strongly urge you to do so very soon. It's truly incredible. This is just one example of how TPOF is impacting economic initiatives in the Commonwealth and why the governor has included more funding for TPOF in his introduced budget, including $76.6 million over the biennium and an estimated $22.4 million through 2030. So let me just expand a little bit on that. As I told you as we talked about transportation, how long things take. We're talking 7 years. Some days we get a little faster. But sites are sort of the same. And so if somebody comes to us from out of town and they want to do something, and we're not quite prepared for them, and they say, you know, can you do this? Can you do that? You say, well, yeah, we can do that. It makes a lot of sense. And they say, when can you get it done? They say, well, you know, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years maybe. And off they go, right? And we've been doing that for decades. So this is one of the tools that allows us to respond quickly to opportunities where we have a real winner, but we just don't have a mechanism to help it. So it's really important. And it's not just for this governor. This is for every governor going forward to allow the state to be able to pivot and to work quickly to get opportunities. So it's really important. I mentioned this earlier, but I also spent the past year working with the Commonwealth Transportation Board reviewing the smart scale scoring process to better incorporate economic development into the scoring and align smart scale with the Commonwealth's economic development strategy. We now have a more forward-looking smart scale scoring process that considers future growth and economic development factors on transportation projects. As the governor says, we must compete to win, and the changes to smart scale will make Virginia more competitive. While we're on the topic of economic development, I have to once again mention our world-class Port of Virginia, which continues to exceed expectation and break records as it drives our economy. Just last week, the port became the first East Coast port to be powered by 100% clean energy, achieving its clean energy goal 8 years ahead of schedule. It is also on its way to becoming the East Coast's deepest and widest port, meaning it will be able to handle the largest container ships in the world, side by side, simultaneously. Makes a huge difference for our competitiveness. We remain committed to supporting the port's efforts to grow as it moves forward with its $1.4 billion modernization, expansion, and improvement package, which will be fully operational in 2027. The port is a powerful economic engine that supports the entire Commonwealth and the greater Mid-Atlantic region. I also have to mention the once-in-a-lifetime deal with the Monumental Sports to relocate the Capitals and the Wizards to Virginia. With your approval, the Commonwealth will be home to 2 professional sports teams and host to all the recreational and economic opportunities that come with a world-class entertainment district. Folks, this deal is unlike anything we've done before. It will create 30,000 jobs and have a projected $12 billion economic impact on the Commonwealth, all without taxpayer subsidies up front or cash up front. There's obviously a major transportation component to this project, and I assure you the Commonwealth is committed to assuring a best-in-class, multimodal transportation system that promotes the needs of this once-in-a-generation opportunity while expanding the protection or ensuring the protection of those already there. VDOT and DRPT are working quickly and closely with our partners to develop a transportation plan to meet the needs of the new entertainment district and region in the decades to come. Furthermore, we completely understand the critical importance of Metro to this project and the greater Northern Virginia region, and that's why we're committed to ensuring WMATA thrives. Let me be clear, Metro is too important to fail. We must get it on a substantial, sustainable path to success. But a lack of public funding is not the system's core problem. The operating subsidies we and our partners provide have grown 2.5 times faster than inflation over the last 10 years. Metro must address its structural problems to be successful. Highest in class cost, a lagging ridership base, low fare collection, and prevalent crime on the system. While it is making some progress, there is much work to be done. And I will tell you they are making progress. Randy Clark, their CEO, has been there for about a year, is doing a good job. We're really excited to have him there. He's got a tough job, and we're partnering with him. But the reality is the reality, and WMATA needs to get some reform. It's not about just throwing more cash at it. It needs to work better, and Randy's well on his way to doing that, so we're confident. I assure you that this administration remains committed to supporting and working with WMATA to address the many challenges they face, and we've put forward common sense solutions to get there. Let me pivot a little bit to rail and transit. At this point, I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and I want to introduce Jennifer DeBrule and ask her to join me, please. Jennifer has been I won't say how long she's worked from the Commonwealth because she might get mad at me. 31 years. 31 years. She started when she was 3. She actually came from VDOT and went over to DRPT. And when I came on board in this job, the former director of DRPT and I conversed, and she was going to move on to another opportunity. And I'd known Jennifer for years, and I knew that we needed somebody like Jennifer to run DRPT. And she didn't really want to do it, but I talked her into it. And thank God I did. And she's been fantastic over the last couple of years. That's the great news. And we trusted her because we knew her, and she's delivered in spades. The bad news is Jennifer has decided that 31 years is long enough, and that's something we've been working on for about 1.5 years now. We've been talking about it, so it's not a surprise, but it's tough. So Jennifer is she's in a great place in her life now to be able to do some other things. She's still a single mom with a young teenage boy, and boy, that's a lot of fun. I can tell you that. My mother could tell you that, and I can tell you that too. So she's going to be leaving at the end of June and retiring and going on to other pursuits in her life. But we are ecstatic that she was with us this long, and I'd like her to make some remarks and tell you a little bit about DRPT and rail. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Secretary Miller. I'm going to start off and talk a little bit about DRPT, where our mission is to be the catalyst to connect and improve the quality of life for all Virginians through innovative transportation solutions. We accomplish that mission through our 6-year improvement program, which has allocated $6.3 billion, and from the leadership of our team fostering innovative practical solutions around the Commonwealth. The COVID pandemic was incredibly difficult for the transit industry, and I'm very proud that our team has come alongside Virginia's 40 transit agencies and many other partners to bring ridership back to our transit systems. More than 105 million trips were made via transit in fiscal year 2023. That represented a 128% increase over fiscal year 2021. Systems like the Greater Richmond Transit Company here in Richmond and the DASH system in Alexandria are among the strongest performing and rebounding from a ridership perspective in the country and are really becoming kind of the benchmark that other systems look at. While we've seen that rebound over most of the state, we continue to see Metro in the Northern Virginia area and the Virginia Railway Express lag behind the rest of the state in terms of ridership recovery, but we really feel like that's largely because the federal workforce hasn't come back to the office in large numbers. Our Virginia Breeze intercity bus system continues to connect rural Virginia to the broader Commonwealth and beyond. We had our best month ever in November of 2023 for ridership of that system, with almost a 20% increase in ridership year over year, the majority of which is in the I-81 corridor. Our freight rail initiatives support growth in Virginia's economy, moving goods in and out of the Port of Virginia, and connecting business to Virginia's rail network, and in doing so, removing 14 million trucks from Virginia's highway network annually. The workforce at DRPT is strong and they're committed, and I am extremely proud of the work they do every day to connect the Commonwealth. And I know they will continue on long after I am gone. As DRPT Director, by code, I also have the privilege of serving as the chair of the Board of Directors for the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. DJ Stadler is the Executive Director. He's here today, and he has done a fantastic job leading that organization. But per usual, as DJ would probably say, I'm the one that likes to talk a lot about VPRA, so I'm going to give you an update on the passenger rail side as well. Virginia's investment in passenger rail is the result of dedicated bipartisan efforts over the past 20 years. Like the Secretary said, these are long-running projects that take time to implement, and we are seeing that on the passenger rail side as well. The Virginia Passenger Rail Authority was established by the General Assembly in 2020 with the mission to implement a transformational change in passenger rail in the Commonwealth by acquiring railroad right-of-way, increasing rail capacity, and reworking passenger and freight operations to improve reliability and increase passenger rail service in the Commonwealth. The cornerstone of this effort is the construction of a new long bridge across the Potomac River, unlocking this rail bottleneck and providing new capacity, which will allow for the expansion of passenger rail service and improve freight rail fluidity, not just for Virginia, but for the entire East Coast. At VPRA, we had a very historic month of December, setting the stage for many, many great things to come as we move this program of projects forward. The Virginia Passenger Rail Authority Board awarded our first major contracts heading towards construction for the Franconia Bypass Track, which is very important from an operational perspective to separate passenger and freight traffic and to align with the new Long Bridge. And we also awarded the first portion of the Long Bridge project, the North Package, which is the portion of the project within the District of Columbia heading over towards Union Station. In addition to those major actions, we also received a $729 million federal discretionary grant award from the Federal Railroad Administration to support the delivery of the Long Bridge project and the rest of the Transforming Rail in Virginia program in the 95 corridor. Now, I want to say I've known the Secretary for quite a while, as he said, and when I took this job back a couple of years ago, he challenged us early on to go get as much federal discretionary money as we could and to bring it home to Virginia. And I'm very proud to say with that very big award that we received in December, our award for the current year, when we look at the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, and our partners around the state, that we've brought over $1 billion in federal discretionary funding home to Virginia. As we see history being made with our passenger rail program, our efforts continue to be affirmed by strong passenger rail ridership. We continue to set new ridership records each and every month. October was a 20% increase over the previous year, and that's demonstrating that the investments that we're making are necessary and they're making a difference in providing transportation options that Virginia needs. So I want to sum up by saying this. In less than 4 years, the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority has gone from a startup organization to an industry leader in the delivery of a very ambitious and really what has become the gold standard for passenger rail around the country. So very proud of the VPRA team, DJ's leadership, and with that, I will hand the podium back to the Secretary.
Thank you, Jennifer. You know, Jennifer's talking about teams, and I think it's a great time to pivot and talk about not just Jennifer, but the rest of our team. And I'm joined here today by a longtime employee of the Commonwealth and Deputy Secretary of Transportation, John Lawson. John is our senior guy on our team, and he was with VDOT for many, many years. Coming out of VDOT as the CFO. I call him my walking file cabinet, basically. If he doesn't know it, he can find it in about 30 seconds. as long as he has his iPad, and I treasure him greatly. He's joined with a couple other great colleagues, Rachel Jones here on the front row, another deputy secretary, and Michael Sargent back here, my third deputy secretary, and Jacob Mischel is our assistant secretary. And that rounds out with our EA, that rounds out our secretariat team. We're blessed to have some really good people helping me. As you know, some of y'all know I'm a retired business guy who's dabbled in transportation on the board for years. And I've been retired for 5 years when I came back to this job, so it's really important to have really good people who know a lot of stuff and work really hard, and I'm blessed for that. And in that regard, you've met Jennifer and you've met some others at VDOT. Of course, we have Commissioner Britch, and we have some other folks here today from VDOT as well. VPRA, you've already heard about DJ and the great work that he's done of that authority over there. And of course, Jennifer's at DRPT and VPRA. The Port Authority, Stephen Edwards is an outstanding professional who's really driving that organization. At the Department of Aviation, Greg Campbell, we brought over from the Shenandoah Valley, from airport over there. He's done a great job in that regard. The Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, we got William Childress, who runs that for us as well, and the Virginia Commercial Space Flight Authority. If you haven't met General Mercer, you'll never forget him when you meet him. He's an impressive man who's been in space all his life, 2-star retired general, so we're pleased to have him. And as we talk about that, let me pivot and talk a little bit about, as we wrap up, let me pivot and talk a little bit about safety. Safety is what we talk about in the beginning of everything we talk about. And I'll tell you, every time we go to the port, every board meeting of the port starts with a safety briefing. And that's just the culture of transportation, okay? Critically important to us. And DMV houses the Virginia Highway Safety Office. They're responsible for safety on the highways in the Commonwealth. Joe Lackey is our commissioner at DMV, and I'm going to introduce him in a second. But let's say this year DMV launched 2 award-winning campaigns targeted at speeding and distracted driving. These campaigns reached a record number of people, and I'm happy to report that preliminary figures show highway fatalities are down 11% in 2023 compared to the previous year. I've been talking about this for 2 years, folks. While there's still too many deaths on our highways, an 11% decrease is significant, and that bucks the national trend of increasing fatalities. We're over 1,000. We've been over 1,000 in Virginia. Every year, we're going to steadily climb, and we were over 1,000 last year. I think we're going to be under that. We're under that this year. But think about that. 1,000 people every year die on the highways in Virginia. And think about what it would be like if 3 fully loaded passenger airplanes crashed into the fields in Virginia every year and killed 1,000 people. Every year, 3 planes crash, 1,000 people. Every year, 1,000. What do you think we'd do? We'd do something very different. And so that's where we are. And I've said it over and over and over and over again. We teach people how to drive when they're 15 years old, and then they drive for the rest of their lives. And we don't teach them anymore. We don't tell them what laws changed. We don't tell them what rules changed. There's no other really reinforcement. There's nothing. And you're driving a many thousand-pound car down the highway at 70 miles an hour, and you don't know the rules because nobody's told you what rule changes are. So we have some work to do. We remain wholly committed to improving safety on our roads through increased education and enforcement. And while safety has been a priority, I'm excited to tell you the administration will double down on that safety, and you'll be hearing more about that soon. So as I told you, DMV is the heart of the Highway Safety Office, and it's a pleasure to introduce our commissioner there, Gerald Lackey. Gerald joined our group about a year ago, and I will tell you, he came in, and in the midst of our transformation process, he has been an outstanding leader, as Ms. DeBrule has, as DJ has, and that's really part of why it's so great to be in transportation, because we got great people. So let's hear a little bit from Gerald, and I'll wrap this up. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and Senator Boysko and the committee. Thank you for inviting us down to talk to you today. I'll keep my comments brief. Gerald Lackey, been here since March of last year. I've had a great team behind me that's really been helping me get oriented, as well as a great leadership team at DMV. It's a privilege working with all those folks, and it's a privilege going to be working with all of you. The other interesting fact, I don't know if all of you know, but 1924 was the date or the year that the first commissioner of the DMV took office. So I have the honor and the privilege of ushering in our 100-year anniversary. This is a huge privilege, and we're going to be spending a lot of time recommitting to our mission. The Secretary touched a little bit on the highway safety aspect of that. The other reason that we were established was to serve the motoring public, and that's all the things you think about with driver licenses and vehicles. You're going to find that in Title 46.2. A little later in our life, last end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st, we picked up responsibilities for motor carrier work as well, and that's in Title 58.2. What we do there is all of the weigh stations. So we manage all of the size and weight compliance, and we manage all of the licensing and operating of motor carriers and commercial motor vehicles. Every single day, we see 16,000 people in person at our 76 service centers or 61 third-party vehicle centers, and now also auto dealers. Every day, we have over 30,000 online transactions. We were the first state to have an online transaction in 1991 with my predecessor, Rick Holcomb, and we are going to join a small handful of states with mobile IDs this year. So we're at the forefront of a lot of the technology, and our strategy there is to help people get what they want done online without having to come in. We weigh over 50,000 trucks per day, and over 20 million per year. So a lot of customer interaction day to day. Looking forward to working with you, like I said, and we have some big things on the horizon, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Let
me...
Mr. Secretary, I do need to introduce a few people who have walked in. I'm afraid we're going to have people having conflicts really fast, but I'd like to have Senator Ayer introduce herself, along with the other 3 people who have come in since...
So just really quickly,
I'm just going to start right down this way.
Good afternoon. I'm LaSharice Aird. I represent Senate District 13, which includes all of Eastern Henrico, Charles City, Sussex, Surrey, Dinwiddie, Prince George, Hopewell, and Petersburg.
And Delegate Bagby. Oh, no.
I could be Delegate Bagby.
Senator, excuse me, Senator.
Senator.
Senator Bagby, excuse me.
Mr. Everything.
I represent Richmond. I thought I represented some of Eastern Henrico, but she just said she represents all of it. So she's making me a delegate again. She's taking my Henrico portion. So maybe I'm in the wrong committee room. I love them both, though. Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Mark Obenshain, represent about 60 miles of Interstate 81, if you didn't know that. And I apparently missed the earlier parts, and I look forward to getting updated on progress along Interstate 81. I apologize for not being here at the beginning of your presentation.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. If you'd like to continue your presentation, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Senator. Let me just say this. You know, when we started with DMV, the governor, was not a career politician. He hadn't spent a lot of time in government in Virginia, obviously, and he didn't have a robust transportation platform when he ran. But he didn't know one thing. He knew that people didn't like the way DMV was working. And so that was our marching orders when we started, fix the DMV. I'm just going to give you, so we dove in and, we did all sorts of transformation with Chief Miller and others and my team and DMV's team, and over the last couple years, and we didn't spend any money, folks. We didn't go out and buy something. We didn't bring in a ton of people. We didn't do any of that. We just blocked and tackled. I'm a guy that came out of business, right? I'm a business guy, and we just established business principles and management principles and just got the people to manage themselves. I mean, we didn't do it to them. We sort of said, what's going on here? And they told us. How do we fix it? And they told us, and then we said, go do it, and they did it. And let me give you just one stat. Pre-COVID, take COVID out of it, average wait time, DMV, from when you get your ticket, right, when you go in and they give you a ticket with a number and a letter on it, 34 to 35 minutes on average across the DMVs. So, you go to someplace in Southwest, it might be 30 seconds. which means somewhere in some other place it might be an hour, right? But it averaged out to 34 minutes. We are routinely under 10, routinely, right? 8, 10, 11. And when somebody goes over their number, bells go off and people get called and people for assistance. How can we help you? It's just management. So think about that. Joan, how many people go through the DMV every year? 4.5 million. We're saving almost 30 minutes, 25 minutes for 4.5 million people. It's profound what we've done. I say what they've done. Okay, so this is what we're about in this administration. I just can't say more good things about DMV. Although we'll tell you, they cut their regulatory burden by 13% this year, along with all these other things they've done. And they've got some bills in to reduce fees and cut costs for taxpayers, including legislation to reform the temporary disabled parking program by eliminating the fee and extending the duration to 12 months. So continuing to look for ways to serve the people that we serve. It's fantastic what they're doing. So I got to give a lot of the credit to the Commissioner Lackey and his team for keep up the good work, sir. We still have a lot more to do. We're not finished yet, but we've done great so far. We're clearly doing a lot, and I've barely scratched the surface. Looking ahead, we will build on these successes. At the Department of Aviation, which oversees our 65 public use airports, we're developing an advanced air mobility strategy that will make Virginia even more attractive to this growing cutting-edge industry. The next generation of flight is taking off today, and we're poised to lead the nation. I got in a little trouble when I first started in this job because I was talking about flying cars a lot, and the governor kept looking at me sort of funny. And he still does, but we joke about it. It's coming, folks. Advanced air mobility is real. We're at the forefront. We have an opportunity here, and we're going to take it. And 30 years from now, things will look very different than they are today. It's just a fact. At the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, as I said, we'll continue working to bring the dealer licensing system online and fast-track the walk-in customer experience again to provide better customer service for taxpayers. Our focus this session, as it's always been, is to work together to deliver the safest and most efficient transportation system in the nation and to support common-sense transportation policies that increase safety, connectivity, and opportunity for all Virginians. And let me say this, and it goes back to the point I made in the beginning. We're standing on the shoulders of a lot of people that came before us. Virginia is the third largest network system, transportation system in the country, okay? And we are the gold standard of transportation. People come to us and look at how we do things in all the other states, and that's not something that I have created. That's something that a lot of people that you see around here have created over decades. We do it really well, but we continue to get better. We will continue to do this by supporting on-time and on-budget project delivery, bolstering economic development efforts, cutting costs for taxpayers, and streamlining our agency services. I really appreciate you having me here today. I look forward to working with all of y'all to better this Commonwealth, and I'm pleased to be in this, to be with you. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I know that we have so much around transportation. It's so important to everybody on this dais. We have some members who have some questions for you. Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much to the Secretary for the presentation today, as well as thank you to the agency heads for coming out, and as well as transportation staff. You know, we're always glad to see all y'all, and I know every member of this committee would welcome you into our offices anytime. So, Mr. Secretary, or Madam Chair, I would say to the Secretary, just I have a few things I want to address. The first one is regarding the statewide fatalities that the Secretary discussed. And with the 11% drop that the Secretary mentioned, my concern with that is that even though we had gone from 1,005 fatalities in 2022 to 893 this past year, we have to keep in mind that that 893 number was higher than any year in the previous decade. And in fact, the last 3 years where you have 968 fatalities, 1,005 fatalities, and 893 all in 3 years, That is the highest 3 years that we've had in the last decade. And in fact, since 2007, when was the last time that we actually had more than 1,000 fatalities. I'm really significantly concerned about the trend of where we're at, and that we cannot look at 893 fatalities as a success. It's not. That's 893 people who didn't make it home, which means that we, as the government, failed those people. Something went wrong. And so we've been putting forward, I've put forward legislation for each of the last 2 years, and now this is my third year doing it, to actually dedicate part of general fund surplus dollars to go to transportation safety projects. And while we weren't able to get the administration support on that the first time, we directed the money to go into Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program this past year. And that didn't get through, so we're trying to give it another shot. But I would like the Secretary to be able to address the idea that we need new dedicated revenue to go into more robustly funding Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program right now. In fact, because this General Assembly has cut transportation funding over the last few years, and we do have existing precedent at this point repeatedly throughout the last few budgets of dedicating 9 digits worth of funds to go to projects like I-64, for example, and as the Secretary mentioned earlier, I-81. So if the Secretary could address the concerns that I'm having right now around how we significantly increase funding for Virginia Highway Safety Improvement Program, as well as make sure that we are directing that to directly cut down on fatalities affecting vehicle drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists alike. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator. A lot to unpack there. Let me start with absolutely it's unacceptable to have 800, 900, 1,000, pick your number, it's unacceptable. The nation has a goal. I don't know how you get to zero nationally, but you certainly want to drive towards that. So absolutely it's unacceptable, and that's why we've been talking about it for 2 years. We're all about it. Safety is an interesting, difficult situation. By that I mean, you basically have a couple things going on. You have infrastructure and how it's designed and how it's built and how it's operated and how it's maintained and how it's enforced. And then you get driver behavior, right? And education's a piece of this, right? And so when you have somebody that does something really stupid and drives 100 miles an hour and runs off a road and hits a tree, I don't think we can out-safety ourselves out of that. That's a decision that somebody's made to do something that's just not smart, and they've created a problem. So put that on the side for a second. We have got to get our folks, so let me say one other thing, the bicycle piece to this. This is really important, the bicycle ped piece. As we have pushed more and more dollars and access to bike and ped, I don't think we've done our job to determine how that interacts with cars. We put lines on a road, put a bicycle on it. And I've been hit by a car on a bicycle, T-boned. And I flew in the air, and I landed, and thank God I wasn't seriously hurt, but I was hurt. I was hurt inside for a while. And so I have a little bit of understanding of that. People don't know the rules of the road. We have a lane out here on, it's interesting, and I don't want to get to the weeds too much, Senator, but on Franklin Street, it's one way coming towards the Capitol from the west. You get to 7th, you can make a one-way left turn from one way on a one-way, except there's a bicycle lane to the left. And the bicycle lane is not one way, it's 2 lanes. So the cars are one way, the bicycles are 2 ways. Can you make a left turn legally? Not real clear. We're doing that more and more. We got to figure that out. If we're going to have more bicycles and more peds on the road, we got to keep them safe. And I think we should. But we're not doing it, and this isn't a state issue, it's a local, state, regional issue. We need to fix that. So I'm 100% with you. But it's not all about, some of it's education, some of it's people doing stupid stuff, and some of it we can engineer into it. And all those things together is what's going to drive those numbers down. We need to do all 3.
Thank you very much. Senator Rome,
Thank you.
follow-up?
This will be the follow-up, and then
we
I'll
have
be finished with that.
At least one person has a question.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, just the statement and then a further question is, statement on that is, infrastructure design changes behavior. And so the 100-mile-an-hour situation that you're describing, on an interstate highway, a federal interstate highway, you're not going to be able to necessarily change the bad decision someone makes. But for example, on Hoadley Road over in Prince William County, or any number of roads I could pick, if you had innovative intersection designs like modern roundabouts at different intersections, that will force the driver to have to slow down in order to go through the circle. And this is one of the reasons why, after all the modern roundabouts were put on Route 15 at Route 50 over in Leesburg, or over in Loudoun County near Aldi, we had a 92% reduction in crashes immediately afterward. As soon as people got used to the idea of going through it, we had a huge plummet. Infrastructure design prevents crashes when it's done well, which is why this has to be a huge priority for both the legislature and the administration alike with this. But the other thing I want to mention about this is you had mentioned, our secretary had mentioned the arena deal over in Alexandria. One of my significant concerns about this is that not only was no one from the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority actually notified about this in advance, and I know this because I had to read about the $150 to $200 million of redirected transportation money from the Washington Post. I then called my constituent, who happens to be the director of the MVTA, and she said no one had told her that, and that this was the first time she was hearing about this. And so that means that if you're going to have a redirect of $150 to $200 million, number one, that does mean that there is an upfront cost that taxpayers are borrowing, because that's money that could go to a transportation safety project like, say, an overpass over the railroad in Haymarket, where I had a constituent get killed for a project that we've had on the books unfunded for years because we, quote, didn't have enough money to do it. When we're talking about redirecting that money, I need to know, where is the money coming from? What are those sources going to be? And what things are either going to be delayed or denied funding because we are redirecting that funding to this project?
Thank you. I don't know that that was a question that needed an answer today, but I appreciate the comments. I shared some of those concerns as well. Senator Sturtevant has a question for the...
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. DMV and transportation is oftentimes a tough job, and I just wanted to say DMV had helped out with some constituent service even before I got sworn in, so I appreciate that, helping out our constituents. And then I also appreciate in Colonial Heights in our treasurer's office, we have a satellite select, a DMV select, and I think that is helpful to decreasing the wait time, so I appreciate that innovation and hope we see more of those around the Commonwealth. And I share the concerns on our traffic fatalities. I'm glad to see that they're down 11% year over year. Are there other specific things that the governor's administration is working on to help educate people and change behavior and improve the safety on our roadways?
I don't mean to be coy, but I was going to say stay tuned.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Senator Hackworth.
Yes, Madam Chair and Secretary Miller, thank you for the information you provided today. Just as a point of reference, I think Senator Rome, and I'm from Southwest Virginia, so I just caught every other word that she said. She talks so fast. But as a point of reference, I think she was talking about how that the fatalities was up since 2007. Is there more motorists on the roads now? I mean, how does that in relationship to, and that's something that maybe your staff can get, but if there's 2 million more, motorists on the roads versus in 2007, the ratio, and one accident's too many. But I just wonder if we are making improvements on that.
Yes, sir.
I have a follow-up, too, but if you've got an answer for that.
I don't have the exact data, Senator, but there's definitely more vehicle miles traveled in today than there was in 2007. But let me talk about the COVID period, because this is not unique to Virginia. This is a national trend. Everybody was seeing basically the same thing. The COVID period had less vehicle miles traveled, and the rate went up substantially. And it was the classic stuff you expect, you know, and people were just, the infrastructure didn't change, right? That wasn't the issue. People were just driving differently during COVID. They were. And we saw it in the data. And that started to normalize out a little bit. But yes, certainly since 2007, there's more vehicle miles traveled on average than there, in 2024 than there were at 7. But I think the senator's point is well taken. Listen, we need to do better, and we're going to do better. But it's, we're leaning hard on it.
Thank you.
And it's a priority.
Thank you. Thank
Follow
you,
up,
Mr.
Madam
Secretary.
Chair.
Oh, yes. Yes.
One other thing that, and I'm kind of into this industry, but some of our dealers have expressed extreme frustration with being able to go into DMVs and actually do business in DMVs. They have to do everything online now. And so I was wondering if that is, if you're looking at that to maybe some of the maybe more challenging.
Smaller independent dealers.
Yes, smaller independent dealers. We would like for you to look at that because there is some frustration we're getting from some of our constituents that has
Happy to.
We'll
get with the commissioner and talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Senator Suetterlein.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations, by the way. I'd like the senator to, or not the senator, I'd like the secretary to give us a little more information on the questions that Senator Rome was taking us on where the financial resources would come for the investment that would be necessary for the arena projects.
On transportation.
Well, yes, specifically, I thought it was clear because we're at transportation. No, those are other questions for other people at another day. But I would like to hear more about where we expect those resources to come from.
I'm not in a position to give you every detail, Senator, at this point, although I did appreciate the upgrade that you gave me when you started. I've already broken the new equipment. Don't touch it. I didn't do it. There are a number of levers that we can pull that will not take substantial transportation dollars from somewhere else. There's money already programmed on that corridor. There's already money programmed on the corridor that we're looking at. So I can't give you, not because I won't, because I don't have the level of detail I'd like to be able to give you, Senator. But there's a fair pot of money that's already been allocated to that corridor that's unspent. We have interstate operations and money that we can use on the exchanges. So there's some money that's sitting there. We'll have a more complete picture for you about 10 days, 2 weeks. But it's not, we're not, you know, there's a bunch of money that's been allocated to that corridor that's already allocated, that's waiting to be deployed. And so the question is, how do we deploy it, where we use it for? And there's some other opportunities. There's some legislation, this isn't specifically for that, but it's really important. On taking some restriction off the Garvey bonds, that's in some of the stuff that y'all will see. So Garvey bonds right now are restricted to smart scale projects only, as opposed to projects that are eligible for smart scale. We'd like to loosen it a little bit. We got plenty of Garvey bonding. It's a bonding mechanism. We have plenty of capacity. We're just restricted from using it. So there's some opportunities there. We'll get you more detail in the next 10 days.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I think you'll find that many members in the Senate are very concerned about what the future holds for our transportation solutions that we've been waiting on. I think that my colleagues have really stated it well, that there is a significant concern around moving funding and leaving someone out. You know, I'll just say, so in my history in the General Assembly, I have represented both ends of the Greenway, the Route 28, Route 7, Phase 2 of the Metro, and now in the new portion of it, I get the lovely 495 near the American Legion Bridge and phase one of the metro. So transportation is front and center in the community where I represent and most of the people who are sitting here. This is something that's very, very important to us, and we want to make sure that our funding for Metro specifically and for the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority are restored. We want to make certain that we are made whole without, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so I think that we're looking forward to working with you and your team to make certain that we are really meeting the commitments that we've already made and moving forward so that our transportation continues to be the most efficient and safer. I just traveled around the southeast of the United States over the past summer, drove from Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and all through Virginia. And I will just say that the best roads were in Virginia, bar none. And so, we are in the top of the class, but we just want to make sure that we're not shortchanging our local dollars. So that's my comment. Don't have to have a full answer, but just want to say thank you so much for all of the members of the agencies who are here with us today. I might also be remiss if we didn't thank you for your time. You really have been very generous in sharing with us, giving us a really comprehensive view of the landscape of our transportation system, from the ports to the airports and in between. So thank you so much for being here with us. Look forward to our continued work.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
I will tell you, it's a very broad and very deep subject, and I'm not an expert on all of it by far, but I've learned a lot over the last 2 years, building on 10 years before that. But I got a fantastic staff, and anything that we can do to help you understand how it's working or what maybe some things we can do are, we're happy to talk to either any of y'all individually or as a group. Happy to do so.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yes. You too. And before we adjourn, I want to make certain that everybody knows our staff who's going to be working with us this session. Senator Suderline, did you have a question? No, just looked like you did. Okay, so great. So I would like to ask our committee staff and our clerk and our DLS and our interns to introduce themselves. And Michael Jackson, MJ, we call him. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been, what you're doing, and how long you've been with us, that'd be a great way to wrap up the meeting, I think.
My name is Michael Jackson. Sorry. I knew it was coming. I am generally referred to as MJ around here. I'm with the Senate Clerk's Office. I've been with the Senate Clerk's Office for almost 8 years now. I have been with Senate Committee Operations for the past 3 sessions. So I will be here this session.
Thank you so much. Ashley?
What exactly do you want me to do? Hi, my name is Ashley Heinz. I am a committee operations intern, and I recently graduated from Liberty University. I'm really excited to be here. This is going to be my first session.
That was perfect. Thank you so much. Nikhil Edwards.
My name is Nikhil Edward. My name is Nikhil Edward. I'm a staff attorney with DLS, and this is my second year staffing this committee and third session.
Thank you so much. And I believe we've got a couple of pages here, too, if y'all want to just say your name loudly and where you're from. Putting you on the spot, but this is part of it, right? This is the experience.
I'm Aubrey Hubbard, and I'm from Abingdon.
We're happy to have you here, Aubrey. Lily, it's nice to have you too. I hope y'all enjoy serving as pages. It's a really special opportunity. Unless anyone has any further business, just want to say how happy we are to have you all working with us this year, and I'm looking forward to solving the problems of transportation around the Commonwealth of Virginia. And do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.
Can we get somebody from DMV over here?
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.